A Victory Tuesday show. The Browns win. Famous Jameis eating the dubs. Getting it done. We are feeling good on the show. I know they're 2-6, but a win. Oh, the relief. We're going to be talking about the win, giving out dog bones. Who's in the doghouse? Fantasy football start sits. Little best bets as well. And a special guest from the Squared Circle, Kris Statlander from All Elite Wrestling. Huge show coming up right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba-lubba hub.
It's gonna be sick.
Woo-wee! How about it? How about that game? Oh my gosh, guys, going into that game, I'm sure you were like me in a way. You know, you're interested to see Jameis Winston. So I was like, all right, whatever. 1-6, and so Ravens are probably going to stomp us. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, well, hanging around 10-6 at halftime, okay, and then hold on, 14. We're throwing the ball downfield. What? A 300-yard game. Unheard of. No interceptions. Oh, and you finally hit 20 points. Never mind 20. You hit 19 points for the first time this season and got 29-24 over the Raptors with Lamar Jackson playing at his best, and you got beat, Lamar. You got beat, Ravens. And I know there's a whole bunch of dropped interceptions. Browns dropped a couple too. All right, hit the jugs machine, boys. Come on. I don't care. You got it done. Make sure you are clicking subscribe, notifications onto the channel. Leave your comments. What do you think of that Browns win? Was this a one-off? Do you have hope for the rest of the season? Do you want the tank? What do you want the Browns to do at the trade deadline, which is a week Tuesday, coming up in 1 week time? What do you want them to do? Leave it in the comments. Leave on social as well. On X, the Twitter platform, at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81. You want to get your fantasy football questions in? Use hashtag AskAndy. And on Instagram and TikTok, at AndyMCSports. So before we go any further, let's give it some dog bones. See who's in the doghouse. And Doghouse Dog Bones brought to you by our buddies at Stadium Mustard. And if you're watching my reaction to the game on social media, you know I slathered the Stadium Mustard on the W. We're eating the dubs. We're eating the dubs with the Stadium Mustard. From ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between, Stadium Mustard is a smooth but spicy mustard, rich in taste and tradition. Stadium Mustard is real and organic, not manufactured. You get it at Brown Stadium. I had it last week when I was there for the Bengals game. Had some Stadium Mustard right in the stadium. Guardians Minor League and Northwoods Leagues as well. And they're everywhere. You can order online. You can get it in stores, whatever. But Stadium Mustard, I had it on Sunday with a delicious, I had a nice toasted ham, nice and simple. Ham, cheese, tomato, lettuce, and this bad boy Stadium Mustard makes all the difference. I love it. I legit, like I have 2 other bottles. This one's on set, but I got ones that I actually use. Pop in the fridge. Stadium Mustard. Check them out. Jameis Winston was putting some mustard on those throws. Dog bones, Jameis Winston, yes, please. Now, look, he could have easily had 2 or 3 interceptions, but he didn't. And people are like, oh, he could have. Watch every game in the NFL. There are drops all over the place every week. You can't live in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. We're living in the what happened. What happened was the Browns outdueled, thanks to Jameis Winston, Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, the one everybody fawns over. You lost. Lamar had a great game. And you know what? When you want to beat the best at their best. And they did. Jameis was fearless. He kept things like, Browns fans, didn't it feel fun to watch football again? Didn't you feel joy? Not a dread, not a dark cloud hovering. It was fun to watch. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was exciting. It was what's going to happen next. We're chucking it downfield. Cedric Tillman, dog bone. 2 touchdowns for my guy, Cedric Tillman. I got his rookie cards right there. Might have to pop one on eBay, see if I can get something for it. These are beautiful cards, though. A 2-color patch, autograph on card, rookies. Cedric Tillman. 2 touchdowns, 99 yards. Elijah Moore's relevant. What? 8 catches for Elijah Moore. Jerry Jeudy, 5 for 79. David Njoku had a touchdown, 5 for 61. Interesting how that offensive production is looking how it looked like when Joe Flacco was here last year. Hell, even a little DTR. Not to that degree on the passing side. But it was fun. The offense was moving. It wasn't hesitant. Now, I'm going to give a dog bone, and he can eat it in the doghouse. Dewan Jones going to left tackle. I said on the show Sunday, I thought that was a ridiculous decision. Why would you put Dewan Jones, who's never played at the pro level and like once in college? And he held up. The kid held up. And by reports, Tony Grossi from ESPN Cleveland was saying he was hearing reports that he's lost about 30 pounds during the season. So I was mentioning, right? He looks slow. Wasn't athletic. So someone, thank goodness, got in his ear, because we saw last year when Callahan had him under control. Guy did tremendous at right tackle. But you moved him to left. And I did have a couple penalties, which is why there's a bit of the doghouse. But your first start there, you didn't notice Dewan Jones negatively outside of those 2 penalties. And they weren't killers. Welcome back, Wyatt Teller with a pancake. He had a couple penalties as well. But that's very interesting now. Again, how this offensive line, now you still have to cut down the damn penalties. You still do. But how the offensive line didn't look as bad because you didn't have some dancing dude back there wanting to play out of structure and zip and go. And they know where the quarterback's going to be. And they know he can get the ball out quickly. That's what makes offensive lines look good. Oh, dog bone, Ken Dorsey and Kevin Stefanski. How about that? Play calling for Ken Dorsey. He was calling the Kevin Stefanski offense. I'm still perplexed why it was Stefanski trying to call the Dorsey offense. And now Dorsey looks like he's calling the Stefanski offense, but whatever. We got the win. They're running the ball. And that's how you know there was a definite Kevin Stefanski influence. Nick Chubb, 16 carries, 52 yards, had a long of 15, couple other 6s, easing his way back in. Not the Nick Chubb that we're accustomed to, but eased his way back in. Donta Foreman, 5 carries, averaged 5.2 yards for 26 yards. Thought he was punchy a little bit too. You're working in the play action. It's not rocket science. They were playing to win, not playing to prove somebody or people in the front office and ownership right. That's the difference with non-Deshaun Watson. I have to say this. Deshaun Watson, get out of my life. Get out of my life. Get out of Browns fans' life. Go away. You're going to be away this year. You are getting paid. And you know what? It might come off as mean, but if you pay me $230 million, you can say whatever mean stuff you want. Please, give me $230. Say lots of mean stuff to me. He shouldn't care what I have to say. And neither should anybody associated with him. But for the sake of this franchise, you need to get out of our lives. The experiment failed. I don't care how hard you worked or tried. It's done. It's not there in between the years anymore. It's over. You're never getting it back, at least not in Cleveland. And I've seen nothing to show that you can play at an even average level in the National Football League. Jameis Winston hadn't started a game since 2022. And look what he did in this offense. Anybody not named Deshaun Watson can make this offense work. It's over. Nothing personal, man. Get out. The Browns next year, you cannot have that guy touch the field. Park him. It's already the worst trade in NFL history. There's no salvaging it. Take your lumps. Terrible deal. Terrible move getting away from Baker. Terrible, terrible, terrible. You failed Jimmy Haslam, Barry, DiPodesta, whoever else actually wanted it and wasn't forced on. It failed. But you know what? You have to move on in the NFL. And now you have to make it better. That's going after different quarterbacks, looking at them in the draft. We talked to John Vogel last week on the show. That's acquiring the right pieces. But look how the wide receivers, people are ready to cut Cedric Tillman. You put Jameis Winston in the last part of last week and now this week. Guy looks tremendous. All of a sudden, that Andrew Berry pick over one game and a quarter starting to look good. Dewan Jones starting to look good again. Make yourself look smart by putting the players and getting the players that fit into this system. That's what you do. Deshaun Watson, you cannot see the field in Cleveland anymore. Sit there. You'll be on the roster. You'll be on the payroll. Them paying you and the salary cap. It's going to hamper us, but we have to move on. It is done. I don't want to have him and his cloud over this franchise anymore. It's not fair. The joy Jameis Winston brought last year, Flacco, even freaking PJ Walker, the joy. We had that. Again, it was fun to watch football. Let's keep that going. Play the Chargers this week, then you head into the bye. You can beat the Chargers. Did the defense look re-energized too? Now, thank goodness JOK looks like he's okay. That was a scare for those of you who didn't see that neck. His neck crunched into the Ravens player and he got carted out. Has full use of his extremities. Says he's okay. I'd be shocked if he plays this week. Another concussion to Denzel Ward. That's not great. You're going to have to look to upgrade through the draft and in free agency, that free agent room. Because are you bringing Greg Newsome back next year? Probably not. And Denzel Ward, you have to count that he's going to miss multiple games every year. So you have to stock up. You got Cam Mitchell in there and Emerson, but you got to keep building Andrew Berry on that cornerback side. So that's a concern. But overall, the 29-24, you beat Lamar Jackson at his best. Stacks from JOK. Oh, yeah, and Obo got one, too. Good to see him in there. And Zadarius Smith. Nice job. The last couple games, Zadarius Smith showing up. Not a coincidence that you removed the dark cloud of Deshaun Watson and the whole situation over this team and everybody plays. It's right there. I just hope that the Ivy League geniuses in the Browns front office can see that. Don't try to prove yourself right. You're already wrong. You're not making it right. Okay? Terrible trade. You're done. But you can look smart by showing that you learn and you move on. That's where we need to go. You need to move on to the Chargers. You need to move on to the bye week and get the job done there. Still coming up in the show. Going to talk to Kris Statlander in just a moment from All Elite Wrestling. Going to have fantasy football under the wire pickups for week 9. Get your questions in. Hashtag Ask Andy on social media. We'll get to our sick picks of the DraftKings Sportsbook as well. I am very excited to welcome my next guest on because, as you know, folks, we're an NFL show. We're a Brown show, fantasy football and betting, but there's also wrestling. I love wrestling. I've loved wrestling since I was 8 years old, and I love AEW, All Elite Wrestling. I'm wearing the gear, and we are bringing in, for my money, the toughest woman wrestler in all of pro wrestling. She's a former TBS champion. She's going to be fighting at Fright Night Dynamite in Cleveland at the Wolstein Center this Wednesday. Former TBS champ, and she has a cool pet lizard. Let's bring in Kris Statlander. Kris, how are you?
I'm great. I wish I had my lizard with me to present also.
Not quite. Oh, what's the lizard's name? I love your social media because you have him like under a blanket. He's all over the place.
Yeah, her name is Boots, like
Boots.
the shoe. Yes.
Boots the shoe.
Yeah.
Have you always had like lizard pets, or are you a dog person? Like what's been your pet background?
So she's my first lizard. I have always been a fan of reptiles growing up my whole life. There used to be this place on Long Island called the Reptile Museum, and I kid you not, like my first 6 or 7 birthday parties in a row were at the Reptile Museum. I've just always had a fascination with them. Yeah. But my parents weren't very big pet people. So we had fish. My very first fish died the day I got it. So not happy about that. And then we just every once in a while would have a fish. I try to convince them to let me get a turtle. They wouldn't do it. And then one year my dad was like, do you guys want a pool or a puppy? And we both said, me and my sister both said puppy. And then we got a pool instead.
Your dad's like, I did not anticipate against the pool. I
Yeah.
was really.
But then when I was 18, I bought a dog and I brought it home, and I was just like, we have a dog now. And we don't have that pool anymore, but the dog is still at my parents' house and they are obsessed with him. So
See?
I was right all along.
You were right all along, and now you got a cool lizard boots to do it. So,
Yeah.
look, before we get into the wrestling talk,
Yeah.
just sports wise, growing up, we are a football show. Do you have an NFL team? You're from Long Island. Do you watch any football growing up? Now, did you have a favorite team growing up?
We weren't a big football. I will proudly admit that I am very not knowledgeable about real sports
About real sports?
or any sports. I was very consumed by my gymnastics bubble growing up, and
Right.
The only sort of events we would go to were Mets games. But I feel like by association, I feel like probably people around me would tell me to be a Jets fan.
Right.
So I feel like I have to just support any New York team is what I'm going for.
Well, I'll tell you, the Jets this year and the Browns this year, it's kind of kindred spirits because they're both doing quite poorly, and so it
Yeah,
can be miserable.
I feel like that's on brand for the Jets. I'm sorry to all my Jets fans. I don't know, but I have friends that are Jets fans, and I hear this often. So
Right.
I'm sorry.
So you were saying gymnastics bubble, and you certainly showcased that in the ring, your athleticism and talents there. How competitive did you get? Like, what level did you get to on the gymnastics side?
I wasn't very good. People tell me that I was okay. I wasn't very good. The thing is that like I'm not super tall, but I am like 5'8", and for a gymnast, that's too tall, basically.
Right,
And
right.
I had a growth spurt like when I was like in 8th grade where I got to this height. So that kind of just like ruined everything for me. But I stuck it out through high school. I was on my high school's varsity team from 7th grade to senior year because we didn't have a middle school team.
Okay.
So I competed in my outside club gymnastics as well. I just had a tough time after I had a growth spurt, and I never really was the athlete that I wanted to be. But I feel like now somehow after, quitting or retiring from gymnastics and then starting wrestling and then injuring both my knees and getting 2 knee surgery, and I had a hip surgery when I was 16. I'm somehow more athletic now than I've ever been before in my life. So I sometimes you're just a late bloomer, I guess.
I get like you couldn't have been that bad. You're on the varsity team. You couldn't have been that bad.
I mean, school gymnastics standards aren't always the best.
They need people for the team.
Yes, yeah.
On out. You're yeah. I think that's how I made my public school volleyball team as well. It was just like we need physical bodies. You're breathing, so come on in.
Yeah.
That's
fine.
I
will say though, when I was in 7th grade and I got on the team, we won our league, like our county league championships that year. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think we were in League 2, and then we won. We won like I can't remember any of the names of the competitions, but we won the leagues that year, and then we moved up to League 1, and we were okay in League 1 the next year. But we took our team to victory. So
that's it. Your first taste of championship gold, and then you move that onto the wrestling side. So let's get into this transition in conversation with Kris Statlander from All Elite Wrestling. Fright Night Dynamite this Wednesday. AEW Fright Night, Wolstein Center in Cleveland, Ohio. You can see Kris Statlander. I want to get to your match a little bit later. I cannot wait for this match, to be honest with you. But how did you get into wrestling? You get that question a lot, I'm sure. You go gymnastics, you say varsity, but how did you watch as a kid? What was your background with wrestling?
I did not watch as a kid. I always say that I fell into wrestling on accident because I didn't really know anything about it until I started training to be a wrestler. And I went after high school. I went to college. I didn't like college. So after a year, I decided to drop out Oh no, terrible.
You
But I
retired from
dropped it out.
college. You retired from gymnastics. You retired from
I
college. How about
retired
that?
from college,
There you go.
and I started training to be a stunt double. And that's
Oh,
kind of what led to it, because I had met some friends in that 1 year of college who were local independent wrestlers. And they were like, we do some shows out near you. So maybe we can bring you in as like a valet or a manager. So I was just like, all right, I'll do that, because stunts in wrestling are kind of similar, but stunts are actually way safer.
Hmm.
So I was a ringside valet manager for 2 years, like once every couple of months. It wasn't very often, but
right.
I did it, and I watched the matches that I was ringside for, and that's the only wrestling I had witnessed. And I was like, I think I could do this. And then I found a school and started training, and apparently I did a good enough job to make it here.
And now you're here. So once you start training, and you
Yeah.
hear stories all over people getting stretched and stuff broken or whatever, you get hurt, and we know the physical toll. You mentioned your knee surgeries, but when you first got in the ring, you're training, you're like, oh, I'll give this a shot. Did you have one of those old school trainers of like, I'm gonna break your ankle, brother, and see how you, or like, how did you like it at first?
I did not have a trainer try and break my ankle on
That's good.
purpose. My
Those days are
trainers
gone.
were Brian Myers and Pat Buck. Very great, very amazing trainers, and I owe so much to them. I think with my first few days, my first few weeks of training, I didn't, like I said, I didn't really have a perspective of wrestling going into it, because I
You know
didn't
what to
know it.
expect.
So I was just like, whatever happens, this is what it is. So I just went in with a very open mind. I was very sore. I was in pain. I had bruises all over my body. But I was really enjoying it. And I remember I have a joke with one of my other trainers, VSK, where I have like a scar on my forehead, because really, really early on, it was like his first time teaching me. I was like 2 weeks into training at this point. He was teaching me how to do an up and over, and I went too far forward and I hit my face on the ring post, and I busted my face open, and I was just bleeding all over the place. And I was just like, I think we need to stop for a second. And so then I got a Band-Aid, I cleaned up, and then I got back to training. And I think that's, people were like, oh, she can do it. She's fine.
You take it, yeah.
Like, yeah, I want to learn. I don't want to give up yet. So I think that was probably like a key moment for some people that were like, oh, we think she can handle it. She'll be okay.
You can take it. Yeah. There always seems to be, that moment where it's like, okay, now we can believe in her. So let's fast forward. You're valet, you're training, face busted open. AEW comes along in 2019. And I'll be honest with you, Kris, I've been a wrestling fan since 1988, since I was 8 years old. But then there was a stretch for 10 years where the product just didn't interest me. It was from 2010 to about 2020. I was like, it just wasn't for me. And then I caught wind of AEW, and I fell in love with pro wrestling. And I got my son in it. We're going to the show tomorrow. He's 10. He loves it. And so for you, AEW starts up 2019. How did you get associated with them, break in? And then we know your career has evolved so much since then.
Yeah. I think I was very fortunate where I was getting booked a lot on the independent scene, and I wasn't like a super popular name, but I was booked, and I was wrestling almost like 6 days a week somehow. Before I had gotten signed. I was very fortunate, and I was having the time of my life, and it was a great time. But because of my great friendships with the people that I trained with at Creator Pro, with one person in specific, MJF, he actually, I'm pretty sure, is the one that like vouched for me, because he had signed right from day one with AEW, and I was like a few months in to being assigned. So I think he's the one that really got my name in there. I got booked to do a dark match one day, and I'd shown up. I'd done some training in the ring earlier with some of the other girls, and like right away they were like, they were like pulling me to the side, and they were like, all right, let's get it going. Like, we want you. I was like, I haven't even wrestled a match yet. Are you sure? Do you want to do this? I was like, you guys, like, I don't know how all of you know who I am, because I I just some girl that found wrestling and was just trying to do it. So I was just very taken aback. But I think I was just really surprised. The fact that so many people, such big names in AEW, like especially like Kenny Omega, like he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, I watched some of your matches," and I was just like,
Wow.
"What?
Okay. All
You
right.
know who I am? That's crazy." um, so yeah, I think it was just so nice. It was very easy to make it my home.
That's amazing. So you got that confidence build in there. You're looking to prove yourself. And then AEW's evolved. You had the pandemic and everything
Mhm.
that has grown since then. So you get the knee injuries, multiple. You come
Yeah.
back, and that from that pop where you came back to win the TBS title.
Mhm.
Tells and you hear wrestlers talking about different ways. Like sometimes they're afraid, oh, are people gonna remember me or react the right way? How nervous were you, if at all, coming back after those knee injuries and saying, okay, I'm gonna make this appearance. No one knows I'm coming. And that
Mm.
reaction that you got, because it was huge.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous. I didn't think people had forgotten about me because there was already so much speculation about when I was
Mhm,
going to
mhm.
return already. Um, I was more nervous about the fact that people would be excited that I did show up. Like I
Hmm.
think they all knew I was gonna come there, but it's more like I just hope that they actually care that I'm here. Um,
Right.
and like there was no nervousness about the actual injury itself because it was it was the second time I'd been injured. I knew that I could come back stronger and be fine, and I had no doubt in my own performance. And I was just nervous about mentally being able to do everything, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like I
Yeah.
knew physically I was fine. I knew I would be able to do everything. I just wanted to make sure that um it was a moment that was important for me and for everyone else. And I know there's not I I don't know how I always feel about there's always like that camaraderie backstage where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm so happy that you're back. And it's like there's the happy that you're back. Oh, I'm so happy that you won the championship. And I remember the amount of people in the back that were waiting for me. It was wild. I just didn't know that I had that impact on people. So it was, I think everyone's always nervous to be forgotten for sure,
Mhm.
or to even be worthy of doing something like that. But I feel like in that moment, I felt appreciated and I felt loved, and not just by the fans, but with my coworkers. So
Love it.
I didn't really have a lot of nervousness after that day because I knew I was like, okay, this is right. This is I it was one of the few moments in my life where I was like, I deserve this.
Good for you. That's awesome. Yeah, because those are the injuries, man. We're following along, right? It's just
Yeah.
heartbreaking to happen. You come back, and a hell of a title run, and now we're
Yes.
built up to this match against Camille.
Yes.
Before we get to her, I want to know so far your favorite AEW match, and then I got a follow up for you. Actually, you know what? Let's expand it even to if there was one on the Indies that you like. Your favorite opponent, and that doesn't have to be that you won, just someone you worked with, you felt the chemistry or the storyline or something. Who's been your favorite opponent so far?
In AEW.
Yeah, or if one on the Indies pops out too, you can go there wherever you like.
That's very tough because I have been very fortunate to work with so many people. I might have to list a few favorites of
That's
mine.
right.
I think if I have a favorite match, I would say probably the street fight All Out that I did with Willow.
Yeah, that was good.
Um, I had a lot of fun in one of my most recent matches against Harley Cameron.
Right.
She's one of my great friends, and it's great. That was our first time wrestling each other, so it was great to know that like there's that chemistry with friendship and in the ring as well.
Right. Right.
Um, on the indies, it pains me to give him credit, but John Silver was like my breakout match, and I have to give him the credit because that match with him was kind of like what helped me take off. And he's such a pain in the butt that it pains me. It physically hurts me every time I have to give him the credit for that. But yeah,
You're gonna have to tag him. He's not gonna believe that you said it.
No, don't give him the credit.
No credit, John Silver.
I take back everything.
You're out.
Yeah, cut the feed right here.
Cut the feed. You're over.
Yeah.
That Willow feud was great. This, Camille, let's get to it right now because it's Fright Night Dynamite this Wednesday in Cleveland, Ohio, God's country, at the Wallstein Center. I'm gonna be there. This card is absolutely stacked. It's gonna be phenomenal. You and Camille, for people who haven't seen Camille, I haven't seen her in person, but just in the ring. You two are two of the most imposing, intimidating, physical, like just jacked, ready to beat the crap out of each other. Not just women, just wrestlers in AEW. So what should fans expect? Like, I just want to sit back and like, okay, slug it out. Let's see what happens.
I mean, it's very obvious that there's going to be some hard hitting for sure. I think, one of my go-tos is to throw someone around as much as I can. And she's going to be someone that I'm not going to be able to do that very easily with. So I'm going to I'm going to find a way to do it. I will do it. So I think it's mostly the best you can expect for sure. We're going to for sure beat the crap out of each other because she came in here claiming to my face that she is tougher and stronger than me. Meanwhile, I've been proving it for the past 5 years, and you don't get to talk down on my abilities like that when you've not proven it. So I'm basically, if she beats me, then it's a proof. But if she can't beat me, then clearly she's all talk. And I fear for Mercedes having a liar as your bodyguard.
Ooh, well, I was gonna say, are you concerned about her at ringside? She can be a distraction. You can grab your foot, all that.
Yeah, I am concerned a little bit, because I am bigger than her, but she's an incredibly smart and talented person, and she, you got to keep your eye. She's a double champion for a reason. But I will say I have won in handicap matches before. I also know that a triple threat match is how I lost the TBS title. So I do know that strength comes in numbers, but I do know that I can overcome that. So it's much of a test as it is for Camille. It's also one for me.
This could honestly be a show stealer. I'm very much looking forward to this.
That's my goal every time I wrestle is to steal the show. So
steal the show.
I'll do that for you.
You can do it, absolutely, Kris. And last one, Halloween. If people who follow you on social, we'll give out your tag. You posted. I don't know if this is your official Halloween costume, but it was. I don't know what you were, but it was done up really well. What are you going as for Halloween?
So the one that I did, that character is Shikla. She is like a small comic book reference from the Deadpool comics, where Deadpool's ex-wife in like a few of the comics.
Okay.
Very deep cut character. I have no idea how I came across her, but I did, and she had a pet dragon, and I had boots, and I was just like, this is literally this is me, basically. I have to do this. I just had a random wave of inspiration to make the costume and dress up as her, and it was great. That I will not be her for Fright Night Dynamite. I do plan on dressing up a little bit for the match tomorrow because it would be lame if I didn't.
It's called Fright Night, damn it, right?
Exactly. Everyone looks like they're possessed on all the graphics, so bring your spook.
Do you like, for your Halloween, you mentioned it was a deep dive costume. Do you like going a little more obscure typically? Because I do.
I if the vibes are right, I will. I like a couple years ago, I was I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's where the NASCAR Hall of Fame is. So like the day before Halloween, I dressed up as Ricky Bobby and I went to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And it's like, I'm not afraid to go a little nutty for a costume. But I also, it's like, if other people aren't going to do it, then I feel I don't want to be the only one at the party. But if other people are doing it, I'm going to go above and beyond, and I'm bringing my best game. So
I need to see that Ricky Bobby outfit. That sounds awesome. I'll tell you my favorite one of all time. Me and my friends a few years ago, we thought we want to have the most complicated explainable costume, that one that you really have to explain and really annoy people. So mine was, I painted myself green and I got a kid's Superman outfit that I tore up, and I was Dr. Bruce Banner, who went out for Halloween as Superman, who got mad and turned into the Hulk.
Fair. I like it. I like the layers to it, because it's so obvious when you know what it is. It's so obvious,
right?
But if you don't know it, then it's like, what is this guy doing?
This guy's an ass.
Also on the green screen where Superman exploded, and you were the green screen. There's so layers to it.
There's lots of layers. I'm glad you appreciate. Not everyone appreciates the genius that goes into an overcomplicated costume. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah. So, Kris, let's tell people, one, where they can find you on social media, because you're a super fun follow. Tell them.
Thank you. I am at Call Me Kris Stat on all platforms.
Beautiful. And Wednesday, tee it up, man. Cut me a promo, sister. Right. Let's go.
Wednesday, TBS, Cleveland, Ohio, Wolstein Center, AEW Dynamite, Fright Night Dynamite. You can buy tickets at awtix.com. Ticketmaster.com. Get them, show up, dress up, be dressed as me if you want to be, and show up and cheer for me, because if you don't, I'll hurt you.
I'll hurt you.
So think long and hard about it, and make sure that you show up or watch or else.
Kris Statlander she's gonna beat you up. Okay,
so I will.
Buy the ticket and watch on television. Kris. Yes. Amazing. A real pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. Cannot wait to see your match on Wednesday.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll talk to you later. There she goes, Kris Statlander from All Elite Wrestling. Like I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to Cleveland. We're going to be at the Wolstein Center. The card is stacked. You got the Moxley's going to be there. First time ever Swerve Strickland versus Shelton Benjamin. You have Camille versus Kris Statlander. awtix.com if you can be there in person, or watch on TBS in the States, TSN in Canada. Sensational. Absolutely love chatting with Kris Statlander. She very, very interesting. I love Kris Statlander, watching her wrestle and getting a chance to talk with her. So let's move on. We go from the fantasy world of Halloween to fantasy football. And you know what, folks? The bye weeks are back. We gotta go under the radar here. We gotta go. All right, so this is an interesting week in fantasy football, because last week we had it where, well, there weren't any buys, right? So you had a rare full slate. NFL's so weird with their bye weeks, right? And by the way, trade deadline is this upcoming Tuesday, 1 week from now. So that's going to be very interesting to see what the Browns do off of that win. Is that something where, they look to add, sell still? It's going to be interesting to see what they feel coming off of the game with the Chargers. Does a win or a loss really matter there? So we go into week 9 in the NFL. We got 2 buys. We got the Steelers. How are those guys 6-2? How are they 6-2? It drives me nuts. Their schedule's so simple, and they go 6-2. I don't know. They beat the Giants. They didn't look good. Browns can beat them after that match with Jameis Winston. I'm still in wrestling mode. Game. Steelers, 49ers are off this week. So we're missing a lot of 49ers, of course, right? We're missing Kittle, Mason, maybe Guerrero, depending Brock Purdy, Debo for the Steelers, maybe Russ Wilson, Pickens. So we got to look. And if you're looking for wide receiver help, it's our guy. Who's been telling you since the preseason? And it was ugly the first few weeks, granted. I was getting nervous. My 2 autograph rookie cards investment wasn't looking great, but it's looking much better now. Cedric by God Tillman. How about it? Funny when you get a quarterback that can throw you the ball. Funny how that, you can actually look good, right? And he had that bad drop. That wasn't Deshaun's fault. But Cedric Tillman has come unglued. He's exploded. 22.5% target share over his last 2 games. 15 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Come on. And he's still available in 80% of most leagues. You got to pick him up. Straight up. I don't care if you need to put him in your lineup yet or not. You got to pick him up. Cedric Tillman, top wide receiver, add no doubt. Tyrone Tracy for the Giants. Now, he's right around that 50% mark, so right at the under the wire mark. Man, it's kind of like with Devin Singletary, the old Simpsons one where they told Smithers, like, you shouldn't have gone on vacation. You shouldn't have got hurt, Singletary. Tyrone Tracy, it's still a bit of a committee, but this is his backfield. If he's around, you got to go get Tyrone Tracy. Like, he did have a head injury, so you got to track it. But overall, if you can get him in your lineup, do it. Keon Coleman at the wide receiver side, secondary down the list because everyone thought Amari Cooper was going to blow up with Buffalo. It worked week 1. I don't know what the hell happened the next game. Guy got 1 catch. I think Amari's going to be fine, but Coleman has kept producing. Coming off a touchdown, 14 targets, 195 yards, and a TD over the last couple of weeks, and that's something growing. Again, guy you want to put on your bench, maybe not super interested in right now. And then you look at quarterbacks. Bo Nix, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that he's doing as well as he is. Drake May is still around. If you can get Drake May, now he did have the concussion, so you got to track it. Drake May's right there. Ricky Pearsall's another wide receiver. We talked about him last week. He was at about 15% ownership, now 36%. He's climbing up. Now, Pearsall, of course, with the 49ers on bye, is a grab now because people won't be thinking about him and stash him. So it won't do you any good now, but a nice stash. I like trying to do that if you can, because then you're in a spot where people aren't like, oh, now he's playing. Kind of out of sight, out of mind. So you can pick him up there. Derek Carr should be coming back. You can look at Carr. Zach Ertz for Washington, 28% ownership. The tight end group still isn't great. David Njoku finally looks like he's going to be able to pop because of the new quarterback that we talked about before, right? So that's something where we really got to look at it and say, hey, the Deshaun Watson experiment is more than over. It's more than over. It's done. It's beyond done. It's done. And you got to just now reprogram yourself to think Cedric Tillman, David Njoku. Heck, even Elijah Moore. I don't think you need to grab him yet, but keep an eye on Elijah Moore. That's really what we're looking at. It's absolutely wild. So those are your fantasy football under the wire pickups. If you have any fantasy football questions, hit me up on X at AndyMC81 at SickPodBrowns. Use hashtag AskAndy on Instagram at AndyMCSports. And now, folks, we go from that to a little bet for week 9. Let's get to some sick picks.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Well, the Thursday night game, Texans-Jets, that's looking like a bit of a dog. The Jets are 2-point favorites, which that says a pick 'em. They haven't earned anything. Texans haven't been as good as they have before. We're going Texans straight at money line on Thursday night. That's all I'm interested in. The Jets are going to be in desperation. Okay. Aaron Rodgers has gotten everything you want. Wanted the coach fired. Wanted his receivers last year. Wanted Devontae Adams. That's fine. I'm going with the Houston Texans. Road dogs. Give me the plus money on the money line. And then anytime touchdown. You know what? For the Browns game, let's go 2. Let's do anytime touchdown Cedric Tillman. Let's go anytime touchdown David Njoku against the Chargers. Chargers, we know they're going to play smash mouth, and they're going to try to get up quick and then run the ball old school, right, with the other Harbaugh. Let's win back-to-back against those whiny Harbaughs. How great would that be? Back-to-back wins over the Harbaughs. So let's do double anytime TD for the Browns, Tillman, Njoku, and money line for Thursday night with the Texans over the Jets. And folks, you know what? It promises to be a month of tricks, treats, and of course, touchdowns. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. If you're new to DraftKings, no problem. Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. It's that easy. You can, like you said, try Cedric Tillman. Try Njoku. With the Texans Jets game. Maybe Tank Dell. Check it out. Easy, fun play. And for new customers, you're going to get a reason to do a touchdown dance, because when you bet just $5, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly if you use the code 6sports. So score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code 6sports. That's code 6sports for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
There you go. Get your DraftKings Sportsbook bets in. Get your fantasy football. And, of course, we're going to be teeing up Browns, Chargers Sunday. Last game before the bye. Browns on 2-6. New hope, new life on Sunday. We'll be live 10 a.m. Eastern. All the fantasy football news you need. Get your questions in using hashtag AskAndy on X at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81, Instagram at AndyMCSports. Thank you so much to Kris Statlander from AEW for joining us today. What a fun guest. She is a gem. And if you haven't seen her in the ring, sensational. And you're going to want to tune in. Remember, AEW Fright Night Dynamite Wednesday from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm going to be there from the Wolstein Center. It's going to go live 8 p.m. Eastern on TBS in the States, TSN in Canada. And if you can be there, you can get your tickets, AEWTix.com. She's facing Camille. It's going to be an absolute slugfest. Can't wait for that one. So thank you to Kris Statlander. For producer Shane, I'm Andy McNamara. You've been watching the Sick Podcast. And as always, go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.